Every so often, a game comes along that changes the course of history as we know it. Baldur's Gate 3 changed the way people look at turn-based RPG settings and got a bunch of people upset. Elden Ring took the open world concept and slapped it on its ass and got a bunch of people upset. Hello Kitty Island Adventure continues being the greatest MMO ever created, having brought in an age of prosperity hitherto unseen on Earth. And I think we should pay tribute to games that really show how video games can be truly amazing pieces of art. Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin is probably the greatest game ever made. Its story is so raw and full of passion that you can't help but be happy to sit there as Jack tells somebody to shut the fuck up. In an age of video games where everybody needs to have some message like, killing people may be bad, but what if the villain was sad this whole time? It's always refreshing to just have a simple story of good versus evil, creation versus creator, mortal versus deity. And Stranger of Paradise fills that, what some might consider a niche at this point, pretty damn well. I don't think many people really questioned why Garland was evil at the start of Final Fantasy, and in true Nomura fashion, he chose to expand on something that didn't really need to. Like that time he explained why Mickey Mouse didn't have his shirt on at the end of Kingdom Hearts. I didn't need an explanation, but it's still cool to have one. And the same goes for Mr. Jack Garland and his cool Crystal crew. Obviously, this quick little video will have spoilers as I talk about the 3 DLC packs that have been released and what it sets up for the future of the Final Fantasy Origin and, let's face it, the Cydia franchise. So be aware of that. Anyway, let's discuss why I want a sequel and why I need that shit in my veins like tomorrow. Now let's pretend you haven't played the game and I have to spend 50 minutes recapping the story so I can fill out the runtime of this video. Stranger of Paradise follows Jack Garland and his cool Crystal Havers, Warriors of Light, Jet, Ash, Neon, and Sophia as they try to rip Cornelia from the choking grasp of chaos. They travel the world and deal with the 4 elemental fiends who are fucking with the 4 elemental crystals. Before realizing that the world is now plunged into pure chaos, the plot thickens as it seems that Jack keeps remembering his past that had been replaced with nothing but a desire and hunger to kill chaos. Killing the so-called King of the Dark Elves, Astos, Jack is forced to kill those who he called companions and succumbs to chaos after he watched Princess Sarah die in his arms. Now remembering the original plan, he returns to the Shrine of Chaos and travels back to Lufenia. He destroys the Matrix that lets Lufenia fuck with the world and steals their ability to reset the world's timeline. Jack returns to Cornelia as Chaos and is greeted by his friends who had become the 4 elemental fiends. Jack and his friends prepare to finally give Cornelia back to its people by spending time loop after time loop after time loop to train the true Warriors of Light. Alright, all up to speed? Good. After the game release, 3 DLC packs have been released, taking place after the game's main story. All 3 of them bring new gear, new weapons, new difficulties, and new jobs. Trials of the Dragon King, some time loops have passed, and Jack keeps being disappointed, but the Warriors of Light lack a progression. Just as he laments this disappointment, he notices a disturbance in the Force. The Wanderers from Limbo go and check out the now stirring Bahamut, who got summoned to Cornelia from beyond the rift by a mysterious entity. Jack and the gang are like, "Bitch, where?" And Bahamut is like, and after collecting rat tails and proving their worth to him, which, by the way, apparently are a symbol of power in the world, it's vague. Anyway, Bahamut agrees to give his blessing and enhance the Warriors of Light that come his way. Not before, however, Jack and his friends beat his big white ass. Wanderer of the Rift brings in franchise favorite character, the Dimension Hopper Gilgamesh. Which one is it? I don't know. They're never really clear on which Gilgamesh did what, but he's from the Cydia, which is important. During one of the loops, the Chaos Gang notice another strange disturbance in the Force and are met by Gilgamesh, who managed to get isekai'd into Cornelia by the Lufenians trying to get the cool Crystal Havers killed. And, well, typical hijinks ensue. Cool and the gang fight Gilgamesh like 10 times, he drops some weapons and is like, "Hey, Jack, are you sure you're not Garland from the Cydia?" And Jack is like, "Fuck you." Different Future sees the main antagonist of Final Fantasy II, the Emperor of Hell, Mateus, join the game in what I can only describe as the most fucking obvious sequel baiting I have ever seen. But we'll get there. A Moogle arrives from the future, claiming that they've been sent to the past to deal with the disturbance, and having beckoned Bahamut to the world of Cornelia. As it turns out, Nil, the Luthenian who's only been seen in flashbacks so far, took matters into their own hands. They managed to bring a location known as Central into Cornelia and is currently wreaking havoc using mannequins. Actually, while I was editing this, I kind of stopped to think and read some of the lore descriptions, and it's not clear whether or not Central got dropped into Cornelia, because it said that where Central is supposed to be, there was like a giant hole where the Luthenians left. And considering this is supposed to tie back into Final Fantasy 1, I was under the assumption that Central did in fact get like transported to Cornelia, especially with how Nil is like, oh, you know, if you kill me, then my will endure on this planet like yours has. So that's what I was going off, but in-game it's mentioned that Jack and the gang moved to a different dimension. It's not entirely clear, but I am going off the assumption that Central got just smacked into Cornelia, and that's why the Luthenians are a thing in Final Fantasy 1. Anyway, sorry about that. These mannequins you'll recognize from Dissidia, I think. Anyway, the unknowns from Eden fight their way through the mannequins and eventually come face to face with Mateus, who is like, "Where upon ye, bitch?" And Jack is like, no. Beating his ass, he retreats back to the shit game he came from, and the gang faces off against Nil. Nil now holds the power of not one, but two cool crystals, making her the strongest crystal haver. She summons Omega because, of course, it's Omega. It gets beat and she's like, bitch! And merges with 3 more mannequin Omegas. Beatings occur, Jack finally kills Nil, who claims that she will live on in the world, nicely tying the NPC Luthenians from FF1 into the story. 2 crystals drop to the floor, and Jack is like, fuck this, and returns to the Shrine of Chaos, where the cycles continue, ending the story where Final Fantasy 1 truly begins. Is what I would say, but bitch, you thought. This DLC is called Different Future for a reason. In a different fucking timeline, instead of Chaos and the Fiends returning to the Chaos Shrine, Mateus is like, hello Mao, bitch, and takes the crystal's power. Promptly beating his royal ass again, Jack literally steals the crystals back from Mateus and basically drains him of all his power. He throws Mateus into a portal, and thus does the Different Future come to pass, where Garland reigns as the god of discord, with the Warrior of Light becoming the god of harmony. So what did I think of the 3 DLC packs? They were kind of shit gameplay-wise. Like, only Different Future actually has a new area to explore, and even then, outside of the new jobs, the DLC packs just add new difficulty modes without changing much. Like, I'm a little upset that the DLC packs didn't add new dungeons. I'm sure there was some extra FF1 content they could have used, but as far as the story goes, yeah, it's pretty fucking good. I don't know, there isn't really much to say. Blue-Mage is busted, and Summoner lets you transform into Bahamut, which, from a general fan standpoint, is cool. But as an avid Final Fantasy XIV player, I am so fucking sick of seeing that dragon bastard be tied into Summoner. I do like how they introduced Extra Mode, which lets you play through the harder DLC difficulties by being permanently in Chaos Bringer mode, which, if you use the right job affinity sets, will make you invulnerable thanks to the Night job. So, if you're only in it for the story and not the 3 fucking extra difficulty options, you're still able to play. On my replay, I've also noticed they now give you Mr. Final Fantasy armor that comes with an insane Night affinity to facilitate new players, which is great. Jack looks absolutely fucking stupid in the armor, but honestly, that's okay. We've got a glamour system now anyway, plus you do get proper Garland armor, finally, thank God, at the end of Different Future. That brings me to the point of this video. I want a sequel, Nomura, and I want it yesterday. Outside of the obvious Dissidia baiting, which I think is based on the mobile Dissidia, which is also a sequel to the original Dissidia story, I don't fucking know, man, and finding any up-to-date story recap is unironically difficult. I'll play the game at some point. Apparently the servers are shutting down and they're going to start uploading like story recaps, but in what I found a disgustingly obvious sequel bait, I noticed a lot of people just wrote it off and rather wanted a game focusing on Kefka. But lads, Mateus is literally reset to 0. Jack quite literally tells him to restart. How more obvious does it need to be that a potential sequel would be about Mateus himself? Listen, I'm not the biggest fan of Final Fantasy II. In fact, I think it's the worst mainline FF so far. But I do like the idea of going through various dimensions, or even something different from Stranger Paradise's Sonic Generation style returning areas. Like, come on, you're telling me the Emperor of Hell Final Fantasy Origin 2 wouldn't be a really fucking cool game? Trying to claw your way back to the top as Mateus, expand on him, and maybe even FF2 a bit more? Hell, Strangers of Paradise leading into Emperor of Hell?
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Honestly, even outside of an Emperor Mateus game, I'll fucking take anything for an FF02. As much as I enjoyed the Unidentifieds of Heaven and their role in the story, I don't think there's much more you can do with them. Their story is over. We now know what happens, and really, as much as I like Jack, if they make a sequel that's just more Jack no-sells enemies, the novelty would wear off so stupidly quickly. But I absolutely want another Team Ninja Final Fantasy game. Dissidia, or Final Fantasy Origin, or hell, make an entirely new spin-off based on new characters in a new world. They're sitting on a fucking gold mine, and honestly, if they want to milk it, I'm completely here for it. Much like Atlas and Persona, I don't care. Just give me more. The gameplay, good. The story, good. The music, good. And that's kind of it. Like, I just like Stranger of Paradise, and I wanted more. And I kind of forgot to do something for a December video, so I guess this counts as a Christmas video. I mean, a story about a group of people coming together to face a problem in a community for the good of all. Isn't that what Christmas is about? Coming together? No? Fine, but you asked for it. I don't wanna laugh for Christmas. There is just one thing I need, and I don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree. I just need to hang my stocking way up on the fireplace. Santa Claus won't make me happy with a toy on Christmas Day. I just want you for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true. Baby, all I want for Christmas is you. You, baby.